Hey, good morning, everyone. My name is Jacob, Senior Acquisitions Manager with Full Circle Investment Group. Welcome back to another episode of our Director's Commentary, where we share a real phone call with a seller and break down the details of what is happening and why. As always, the goal is to give you some insight into how we talk as acquisitions managers, specifically what we say and how we say it. There's a lot of psychology and science available today that directly supports some of the things that you're about to hear in this call. So I'm hoping that you will hear that and that it will help you understand a little bit more about why these questions work. As always, a few things to keep in mind as you listen. Number one, this call breakdown is meant to serve as an example only. How I talk to sellers is likely completely different than how you may talk to sellers, and that is awesome. We all have our own styles, and all you have to do is find what works best for you and tweak these questions, statements, etc. as necessary until it sounds natural coming out of your own mouth. Number two, I am by no means whatsoever an expert when it comes to acquisitions. I have been in this business for going on 3 years now. I am not perfect. Everything you are about to hear is simply based on my experience. There will undoubtedly be a few areas within the conversation that could have been handled better, and there are probably even a few areas where I may have just missed something entirely. This happens in almost every single phone call. We're all human, and hindsight is always 2020, right? Now that we got that out of the way, let's go ahead and get started on the call. Hope you enjoy it. So while we're going ahead and getting this call pulled up, I do want to talk to you guys about what you're about to hear. So today's conversation is relatively short. It is a 14-minute call overall. Within the first minute, you're going to hear me introduce myself, basically give the reason for the call, and then start asking about why and what the story is, right? Within, I guess, the first 3 minutes, you'll start hearing about condition and what the issues are with the home and how to identify that. Once we get into about halfway through the call, you'll start to understand what it sounds like to ask about the seller's understanding of the market and what the sales are saying in the area and roughly what he is ultimately hoping to get in this particular case. You're going to hear what we refer to as the $10,000 question shortly thereafter. And then towards the end of the call, you'll also start to hear me go down the path of bringing a sense of reality to the discussion as far as where I think the numbers need to be and what is going to make sense. And on this particular call, you will also hear a little bit about what it sounds like to dig for additional information on competitors and what other people are considering doing with the property. Because in this particular case, this gentleman had quite a few conversations with other investors as far as what their plans were. So, and then after that, we'll talk about setting up the walkthrough, and that'll basically end the call. So, hope you guys enjoy it. Here we go.
Mike Johnson, can I help you?
Hey, good evening, Mike. This is Jacob McPherson giving you a call back. How's it going?
Well, and yourself?
Oh, not too bad. I'm sorry I missed you yesterday. Oh, you're still there? Did I lose you?
No, I'm still here.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I just said I'm sorry I missed you yesterday. I had reached out to you, actually, I think it was your wife's phone, about a property. The address was 50.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just simply wanted to give you a call back and follow up.
Okay.
Okay. So I guess, Mike, to kind of, give you an idea of the reason or the nature of my call, I represent a group of people here in Hampton Roads that basically buy, fix, and sell houses.
Right.
So I just wanted to reach out to you guys to see if this was something that you were looking to sell.
Yeah. Yes. I've had a lot of calls on it. The same type of groups of people.
Oh, okay. I gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I think you might have broken up there a little bit. Did you say you are looking to sell or?
Yes.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. So I guess with that in mind, can you give me a little background and kind of tell me what's going on and what you're looking to do?
I'm just my father. It was my father's original house. He just passed away a few months ago, so I'm looking to finish closing out his will and liquidating his assets.
I gotcha. Okay. I'm so sorry to hear that, Mike. I didn't realize that was the situation, sir. So I do apologize. I hope you don't consider my phone call offensive or anything along those lines, because that was not my intent. So I'm sorry about that.
Yeah. No, it's okay. Like I said, I've had several phone calls regarding the same situation. So
I gotcha. Okay.
it's a
Now,
3-bedroom, 1-bath house.
okay, guys. So I'm gonna go ahead and pause it here. So within the first two minutes of the phone call, I introduced myself. I gave the reason for the call, right? So who I am and what I do. And I kept that short and sweet, right? So in this particular case, I just simply said I represent a group of people that buy, fix, and sell houses. And that's it. Just very short, sweet, to the point. I didn't go into, well, this is what wholesaling is, or I'm an investor. Okay, we never say those things. A couple different reasons why. One, the word investor usually turns a lot of sellers off almost instantly because they have been conditioned in this market to hear the word investor, which then automatically triggers a lowball offer sense that goes off in the back of their heads, right? Almost like an alarm. So we never use the word investor, and we never talk about what we do as far as wholesaling is concerned. We never even talk about really what we do as far as rehabbing is concerned. There is no need to go into any of that, and I promise you, majority of the time, when you do start to go down that path, you will start getting questions that you do not want to be asked. So I would just keep it short, sweet, to the point. I represent a group of people that buy, fix, and sell houses, right? We look to put a little money into properties, turn them around, put them back on the market, and sell them for a profit. Does that make sense? Yep. Okay, great. And then moving on, right? Very short, sweet, to the point. No reason to talk about anything else. You will either lose the seller in those conversations, or you will start going down a path that you do not want to go down. So just avoid that altogether. Furthermore, second thing that I did, right? I basically asked the question of why they were looking to sell. In this particular case, Mike's father passed away. He inherited the home, and he's looking to sell it. At that particular point in time, I knew before I made this phone call that this was a probate situation. So when it comes to probate, it's really, when it comes to any call with a seller, guys, you have to be empathetic about the situation and what is going on. Fact of the matter is that houses are personal to people, right? They have memories. They grew up in the home, or their grandmother just passed away that they loved dearly and spent so much time with, and now they're dealing with all of that in the background. And on top of that, you're the guy that's just simply calling to ask if you can buy the home. 9 times out of 10, those conversations don't really go well, right? Which is understandable, because a lot of those people would look at you as being a predator, okay? Because unfortunately, there are people in this business that tend to come off that way a little bit more than some of the rest of us, right? The idea here is to be a real person, right? Be understanding, be empathetic of this situation. You heard me say almost immediately after Mike had said that his father passed away and he inherited it, I'm so sorry to hear that, Mike. I did not know that that was the situation here. I do apologize. And then I went further and I said, I hope that you don't see this call as, being malicious or anything along those lines, because that is not my intent. And it's not. My intent is not to is to upset the seller. I'm not trying to upset the seller. I'm just simply trying to figure out whether or not they're genuinely interested in selling. And you go about doing that by being empathetic towards people's situations, right? Non-intrusive, asking for permission. That's ultimately going to make the seller feel that they have control in the conversation, and that is what is going to get them to open up to you. So keep that in mind as you move forward in some of these phone calls. The next thing that you'll hear me do is, I don't think we've gotten there yet, but I will ask permission as far as, did I catch you at a good time? And can I ask you about the condition of the home? That's about to come up, and then I start going into conditions. So we'll start talking about that after we get through it. Okay. Yeah, actually, I was able to get it pulled up. I am actually looking at it here. Looks like it's a little over 1,000 square feet. Is that about right?
1,071 on the last appraisal, yeah.
Yep. Okay. All right. Very good. And I guess, did I catch you at a good time, Mike? I mean, can I ask you a couple of questions about the condition?
Yeah, my barber is resting right now, so you can ask some questions.
Okay. All right. Well, I won't take up too much of your time. But okay. So what I'd like to do is just kind of start from the outside in, and just the idea here, of course, is to give me a basic picture as far as what we're working with, and then we'll just kind of go from there. So starting with the outside, have you replaced the roof in the last 15 years or so at all, Mike? Do you know if your dad had or your mother?
98 was the last time.
98. Okay, wow.
Yeah.
All right. So getting up there. Okay.
Yep.
And then, do you have original windows in the home, or do you have updated vinyl windows?
No, they're original.
Okay, so original windows, and then any issues with the foundation, cracking, anything along those lines?
No, that seems to be fine. As far as the foundation and all that stuff goes, there's a few little stress cracks and stuff in the ceiling here and there, but there's nothing major. It's all minor cosmetic stuff.
Okay, all right, I got you. All right. Okay, and then I assume that the house has central heating and air. Is that correct?
No, it does not.
Does not have central heating and air. Okay. How's the house heated and cooled currently?
It's got electric wall heaters that were built in 1957.
Okay.
Those units,
nice.
I think, were
old school. I grew up with that.
yeah.
Nice.
So
okay.
And then he wasn't much on air conditioning. When he needed some in the middle of the hot summer, he just threw a window unit in his bedroom. So.
Gotcha. Okay, makes sense. All right. And then electrically, I assume that he has like a flip switch type of updated electrical panel, or is it the old screw-in fuses?
It's got some screw-in fuses and the push-pull fuses.
Woo! All right then.
Original 60. It's a 100 amp box, but they've only ever did 60 amp service to it.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. You don't see very many of those anymore.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. All right. So it's going to need a full electrical update. Wow. Okay. All right. And then so that just about covers the exterior. Moving inwards. Do you know if they've done any major renovations to anything on the interior over the last 10, 15 years?
Nothing major, no.
Okay, so nothing in the kitchen, nothing in the bathrooms, anything along those lines, like granite countertops, stainless steel appliances, soft close cabinets, none of that?
No, just the flooring.
Gotcha. Okay.
Flooring,
what was done with the floors?
Yeah, new vinyl was put in the kitchen about 4 years ago.
Okay, like a luxury vinyl plank, or?
No, it's just a linoleum style of vinyl.
Yep. Okay. All right. I got you. Okay. All right.
House has all hardwood floors in it, even though the main living room area and stuff is carpeted.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay. So, so I imagine, it sounds like, Mike, it's, probably something that was just left behind for you, but, is there a particular reason why you're selling and so on? Can you kind of catch me up to speed there?
Second one.
Say that again?
I said I have my own house. I don't need a second one.
Oh, okay. Sorry, you just cut up. I didn't actually catch the first part of your sentence there. Sorry about that. Okay, guys, I'm going to go ahead and pause it here, and we'll talk about some of those questions surrounding the condition of the home. So, a couple of things here right off the bat. When you were asking a seller about the condition of the property, you were looking for big ticket items, right? So, and I always do it the same way. It's almost as if I'm actually at a property walkthrough. I'm visualizing the home in my head as I'm asking the questions, and I'm starting from the outside, working my way in, and I'm starting from the top down, right? So the very first thing I ask about is the roof, and then I start asking about the HVAC, the electrical, the siding and the foundation, and the windows, right? Those are all those things that you heard me kind of wrap together as far as the exterior was concerned. As far as the interior is concerned, it's very easy, right? Have there been any major renovations within the home in the last 10 to 15 years? Because usually what that'll do is that'll just simply get the seller talking about, well, yeah, we went in, we updated the kitchen, or yeah, we did some work in the bathroom, right? Or it's going to be, no, we haven't done any of that, in which case you know that you're likely just going to have to renovate the entire interior of the home in way of bathrooms, kitchens, floors, paint, right? New electrical fixtures, whatever have you. So that's why we go about asking those questions in those ways. And and then right at the end there, I started to talk about asking why a second time around, and I should have phrased my question a little differently. I was thinking about the fact that obviously his father had passed away and he was selling the home, right? But I was trying to get a better understanding as far as, well, why is he trying to sell his father's home as opposed to keeping it, right? So, and he simply said it, and he said, I have no need for a second home. I wish I would have asked that question slightly different. I wish I would have asked it in the sense of, have you thought about keeping it? Have you thought about renting it out yourself? Have you thought about keeping it in the family and for any other family member, right? I wish I would have asked that question in one of those ways because I think I would have got a slightly different response, of course. But at the end of the day, my question still worked. It still got me to the understanding of, okay, well, and he inherited the home, but he just simply doesn't need a second home, which is why he's selling, right? So not a big deal that I didn't ask it a different way. It's just I wish I would have done a little bit better there. But that was everything as far as big ticket items are concerned in the house. Basically, what we heard is that the home needs almost a complete update, right? It needs electrical, it needs HVAC, it's going to need flooring, it's going to need kitchens, baths, it's going to need everything, right? It's going to need a roof. We heard all of these things. The only thing that is seemingly okay is the siding and the foundation. So, but outside of that, windows, everything else is going to go. So we know that we're over the phone. We're already talking about a $45,000 to a $60,000 project, likely, okay, at minimum, based on what he is talking about over the phone. So we'll keep that in mind as we go forward. I gotcha. Okay. Have you done any? I mean, it sounds like you've had a handful of guys call you. Have you done any market research on your own and found out what houses are selling for in your area and so on?
Yeah, we have, and it varies depending on the age. Anywhere from 160,000 to 275. A recent new home just sold there for 315. So,
You said a new home?
yeah.
Okay, yeah, so we're talking new construction, so not, okay, all right.
So most investors that are interested in this house want to do an addition to it, and put in a second bathroom, and they want to subdivide the lot and build another house.
Okay, that's kind of interesting. I didn't realize that the lot size was that big.
Yeah, it's 100 by 275.
Oh yeah, yep,
Yeah.
yep. That's definitely within a subdivision for sure. Well, that's kind of interesting to note. Okay, yeah, I didn't catch that initially, so thank you. Okay, now where the house is situated currently, is it situated in the center, or is it offset on one side or the other on the lot there?
No, it's more towards the front of the lot.
Okay, I see. Okay, so they're wanting to. Oh, that's interesting. That's very.
You have an aerial up right now?
I do actually. Yeah, I'm seeing what you're talking about as far as the 275 foot of road frontage length on Moore Road is what it looks like.
Yeah, so they're looking to put a second house on the lot behind the garage.
Sure. Okay. Yep, that makes sense. I can see that. Okay. So with that said, I mean, it sounds like you got a couple of different options here. What are you ultimately hoping to walk away with here, Mike?
150.
150?
Yep.
Okay. All right.
I'm asking any retail buyer that calls wants to live in it. I'm just telling them 170 and negotiate down from there. But it'll take 150 for me to turn it over right now.
I gotcha. Okay. Now, have you thought about listing the property or anything along those lines with a realtor or going that route? Or are you looking to just sell as is?
I'm going to just try to sell as is right now.
Okay. All right. And how quickly are you looking to sell, Mike?
Yesterday.
I gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, guys, I'm going to go ahead and pause here. So, we're talking about the market, we're talking about sales, and then we started to go into what some of the competitors are looking to do with the property and what Mike is getting for feedback. So, a couple of different things that we want to try to clarify as far as asking these questions and what we're ultimately looking for, right? So, when I ask, have you done any market research? Do you know what houses like yours are selling for? The reason that we are asking that question is because we are trying to figure out how educated the seller is on the market, because ultimately that's going to tell us how much work we have to do moving forward as far as scraping the seller off the ceiling and getting them down to our level and what is real, right? Based on profit margins, costs, right? Everything that goes into the Mayo formula, working backwards to get to our number. So the reason that we ask the question that way is because it tells us right off the bat whether or not the seller is potentially working with a realtor or where they're getting their numbers from, right? So if we didn't know, in this case, that Mike had already talked to other competitor investors of ours, then that would be a good opportunity to ask him here. Well, it kind of sounds like you've been speaking to other people. Like, what have they been telling you, right? So it gives you a couple of different options as you start to go down that path of asking about their knowledge of the market. And then the second thing it does, of course, is it partially identifies roughly where they are hoping to be based on what things are selling for that are similar to theirs, right? And then you heard me ask the question of like, what are you ultimately hoping to walk away with here, Mike? And he said 150,000. He then talked about the retail sales, the idea of if anybody who's looking to live in the property calls him, he's telling them 170 so that he can negotiate down to 150,000. So moving forward, you're going to hear this is such a great question to ask, and if you guys don't take anything else away from this call, I I hope that the big thing that you take away is what's called the $10,000 question, which is about to be the next question that I ask. And then you'll hear a mirror in there, and then you'll start hearing me go down the path of the mortgage once that starts to come out. So I'm going to shut up, and we'll go ahead and listen to that. Well, let me ask you this. If I could pay you all cash, close in as little as 14 days, and I paid all your closing costs, what's the least you would accept for the property?
150. That's what I need to get out of it.
It's what you need to get out of it?
Yep.
Is there a mortgage on the property?
Yes.
Okay, guys, so just to reiterate, the one takeaway in this entire call, if you don't take anything else away, the one big takeaway is what is called the $10,000 question. And it sounds like this. Mr. Seller, if I could pay you all cash, close in as little as 14 days, and I pay all your closing costs, what's the least you would accept? And that's it. It is literally just that exact sentence. We do not freelance it. We do not say it any other way. The reason that we call it the $10,000 question is that historically speaking, most of the time, when you ask that question exactly that way, you will get at least a $10,000 reduction over the phone based on the initial price that the seller had told you. So in this case, I was hoping that he was going to go from 150 to 140, but he didn't, right? He stayed right at 150 and he said the word need, right? So immediately thereafter, I mirrored, and a mirror is a great technique. We definitely need to go into more detail about those in the future. But he said, I need to get 150,000. And all I did was repeat what he said right back to him. That is what a good mirror is. And all that was is, you need to get 150,000? Yep. Okay, well, so now there's obviously some reason why $150,000 makes sense, right? So I could have just said why, or what's the reason for the 150, right? Or something along those lines, which would have been fine. But in this case, I figured just, okay, well, there's likely a mortgage on the property that I haven't talked about yet, hence the question about the mortgage, right? Is there a mortgage on the property? Yep. Oh, okay. Well, now it's starting to make sense, right? What's that payoff? And then we start going down that path. One last bit about the $10,000 question, just to make sure that I don't miss this. After you ask the $10,000 question, you need to not talk. As hard as that may be, as uncomfortable as that may be, I swear to God, I have taken the phone away from my ear and I have set it down on the desk so that I do not say a word. Because the first person that speaks after you ask that question is the one who has to justify why they are asking for what they are asking for. Okay? So ask the $10,000 question and then shut up. Please, please, please shut up. I promise you, eventually somebody will say something. Even if there's a pause for 30 seconds, that's fine. Oh, Mike, you still there? Did I lose you? Yeah, I'm still here. Okay. And then you just ask it again. Literally exact same way. Ask it again. Wait for the seller to respond. And that's it. All right. Moving forward. Oh, I got you. Okay. All right. Well, that kind of tells a bigger story. Okay. What's the payoff on the mortgage?
Don't know right this minute.
Gotcha. Okay. So you're basically just looking to pay off the mortgage and what? Maybe just put a couple $1,000s in your pocket, kind of sort of thing, or?
I want to do better than that.
Don't we all? Okay, guys. So I wanted to ask this question very specifically, right? I asked what the payoff was, and sometimes the seller will give you the payoff, and sometimes they won't. In this particular case, I always think, and this may not necessarily be the correct assumption, but I always assume that the seller does know what the payoff is, right? I mean, most of them are looking at their mortgage statement every month. So, but I mean, rightfully so. Sometimes sellers just don't want to give out that information, right? And that's fine. So in this particular case, I tested the question and tested his answer when he said, I can't remember what the mortgage payoff is. I followed that up with, oh, okay, so what are you hoping for here? Are you just hoping to, pay off the mortgage and put a couple $1,000s into your pocket? A couple of $1,000s into your pocket, right? So I'm making an assumption that the mortgage payoff is closer to $150,000 than it is not, right? And then he immediately came back with, well, I'm hoping to do a lot better than that. So obviously I know that the mortgage payoff is nowhere near 150,000 most likely, right? He's trying to put a good chunk of money in his pocket, which should mean in theory that we may have some negotiating room moving forward, right? Doesn't necessarily have to be a $150,000 sale if that doesn't make sense. Eventually we will have to figure out what that mortgage payoff is, but we can do that in a later conversation when we're actually on site in front of the seller building rapport. We can bring that up then, and then we can have that real talk about, well, Mike, I don't want to waste your time. If I can't even cover the mortgage, then, this conversation probably isn't really going anywhere, in which case, I can save you some time and energy and effort, and I can save myself some time, energy, and effort. Does that make sense? Right? And then we can go down that path. So food for thought moving forward. I'm going to go ahead and let this play out, I think, for just about the last few minutes here, and then I'll come back in and we'll talk about some final thoughts. I gotcha. Okay. All right. So, okay. Well, that kind of gives me, a better idea as far as where we're at. Now, I'm going to go out on a limb here, Mike, and say that no other investor has offered you 150, because I assume that if they had, then you probably would have taken them up on that already. Is that correct?
No, I've already had the contract for 150, and their 45 days expired, so it's back relisted.
Oh, well, that's kind of odd. How come that fell through?
I don't think they had the cash flow they thought they had.
That's interesting. Okay. So did they actually they actually contracted up with you and then they fell out of contract? Did I hear that right? Are you still there, Mike? Did I lose you?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Oh, sorry. Okay. So they actually had a contract with you. We're going to go to the closing table, and then they fell out of contract with you. Did I hear that right?
Yes.
Wow. And they didn't really give you like a solid reason as to why?
I didn't really press them that much, to be honest with you.
Okay. I'm just, the reason I'm asking is I'm just kind of wondering, like, did they find something in the title check or something along those lines that would have prevented them from going to the closing table, or?
No, I've run the title search myself, and it's come back clean other than the mortgage.
Oh, wow. So maybe just a funding issue. Do you pre-vet? Well, sorry, I ask these questions because it's just normal everyday business for us, but you didn't ask for a proof of funds or anything along those lines, did you?
Actually, they had a letter for a line of credit, but I don't know what happened to that. So.
Wow. Oh my. Okay. Well, that's very interesting. So guys, this is pretty crazy, right? So, I mean, I'm looking at the numbers throughout this call. $150,000 doesn't make any sense whatsoever, which is why I started to go down this path. So my idea, the whole idea here was to bring a sense of reality into the conversation, to be able to basically tell Mike that 150,000 is probably nowhere close to what he's going to be able to do here. And that is why I started asking the question as far as, oh, well, it kind of sounds like nobody else has been willing to give you 150,000, because if they did, you would have taken it, right? So the idea behind that question was to basically scrape Mike off the ceiling, right? Like, Mike, 150,000 just doesn't make sense, right? I mean, nobody else is even offering you that. But then he surprises me and he comes back and says that he had a contract, but then it fell through. It was 45 days past due, expired. So, which is interesting, right? Because that tells us automatically, okay, so you had a contract for 150,000, but likely that investor realized that that number didn't make sense, which is why he didn't close. So I didn't start going down that path. I probably could have, but it really just kind of threw me in this particular point of the conversation because I was not expecting that. So the idea was to try to bring a sense of reality here, and then all of a sudden he hit me with that. Now, a couple other things I did do, I started to make assumptions as far as, well, why didn't they close right? Was it an issue with title? No, it wasn't the title. I did a title check. Everything is clear. Okay, so sounds more likely that the number probably just didn't make sense. Did you ask for a proof of funds? Right. He said they showed him a HELOC, a home equity line of credit statement that showed funds. So, I mean, it was, it's pretty obvious that the whoever the buyer was realized that the number that they had contracted up at did not make sense. So we don't go into that too much, but because of that, I basically started to think in my head, like, okay, well, so maybe we do have something here. Maybe there's something I'm missing, or maybe I have to go back and I have to do a little bit more research. So why don't I go ahead and set up the property walkthrough and see if we can get us a shot at this one, and then worst comes to worst, we'll follow up, right? So that's what I do in the next few minutes of the call. I'm going to let that play out, and then we'll officially wrap things up for today. Okay. All right. Well, here's what I'll do, Mike. I mean, I am interested, right? I mean, we're always looking to buy properties, and we have partners that do new construction, so that's not out of our wheelhouse. What I am going to do is I'm going to deep dive this a little bit further. The next step for us would be to come out and actually meet with you at the property and take photos, and really just try to come to a firm number on these on this repair costs on the existing house, of course. Would there be a date and time that I could maybe meet you out there and we could kind of roll through that so I can actually give you a firm offer?
Sure.
Okay. What does your schedule look like, I guess? Yeah, what's your schedule look like this coming week? Or next week even?
I'm actually free tomorrow.
You're free tomorrow?
Tomorrow, yeah, probably till 11:30 in the morning, yeah.
Okay. So believe it or not, I'm actually a mechanical engineer by day. So I do this in the evenings and basically just after hours, of course. Would it be possible to catch you maybe closer in the evening, or perhaps even on Saturday or any time next week?
Yeah, Saturday morning would be fine.
Okay. All right. What time on Saturday morning? Are you an early bird, or?
Yeah, I like to get my stuff done relatively early so I can play the afternoon.
There you go. Yeah, I'm right there with you. Okay. What time would you like me to meet you over there?
8:30 sounds good?
8:30 sounds great.
Okay.
All right. Very good.
All
Well,
right.
I really appreciate the conversation, Mike, and thanks for taking the time here to kind of catch me up. And I'll meet you out at the property on Saturday at 8:30, and we'll see what we can do.
All right. That sounds good.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. I hope you have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye. And that is it for the end of the call. So that was very short, right? 14-minute phone call. I got just about every piece of information that we want to initially gather over the phone. I introduced myself. I told Mike what I was willing to do or what I was looking to do. I talked about condition. I figured out why he was selling. I uncovered the fact that there are competitors and that there are a couple of different avenues to potentially travel down on this one, right? As far as what kind of research we're going to have to do and maybe what the end buyer is going to be able to do with the property. And then I went ahead and figured out what he was looking to walk away with, found out that there was a mortgage on the property, and then, of course, we went ahead and set up the walkthrough and go on site and dig up more info on it, right? So I would say that that was just about a perfect phone call as far as an initial conversation with the seller and digging up all of those pieces of information, right? Um, Obviously, again, right, things that I missed, things that could have been done better, but overall, that was a pretty solid call. So I hope that that gave you some insight as far as what all of that sounds like. Again, right, asking for permission, mirroring the seller to try to dig for additional information, mislabeling, right, making assumptions that may not necessarily be the case, but the reason that we ask that is because we're trying to prove or test that particular question or theory, right? So again, guys, a lot of psychology, a lot of science that goes into these calls. I really hope that you were able to take a lot away from this one, especially the $10,000 question. If you would, moving forward, for anybody who tries the $10,000 question, especially for the first time, I would really love it if you guys would post in the comments section what the result was after you asked that question for the first time around. I'm really, really excited to hear it and see it. We know that it works. We know that it ends up typically getting a $10,000 reduction in price, sometimes more, but I would really love to hear that feedback from you guys moving forward. Outside of that, as always, I really appreciate you guys tuning in today. Thank you very much for listening in to our podcast at wholesalingoutofthebox.com, and look forward to the next call. We'll talk to you guys later. I hope all is well. Take care. Bye-bye.